This Squirecast podcast is brought to you by Snarky Faith. Snarky Faith is a place where we dive headfirst in the tumultuous crossroad of life, culture, and politics. Fed up with the insanity in Christianity? Well, you'll feel right at home here. I'm Stuart Deloney, and Snarky Faith is more than just a critique. Join me as we wrestle, question, and explore the dialogue that shapes our faith in the world today. So look for Snarky Faith wherever you listen to podcasts.
Lord have mercy. The Lord is my shepherd. He know what I want.
Forget what they told you in Sunday school. God's not mad at you. You don't have to make America great again. And your spirituality doesn't have to look anything like theirs. Welcome to Evangelical-ish with Paul and Ashley. We're untangling and unlearning what harms, reclaiming what heals, and searching for a new kind of 21st century spirituality.
Woot woot, I'll say it since Doug on the left is not here with us yet this morning.
Hopefully soon, you know. There he is.
Oh, there he is.
Doug on the left.
Right away.
Fantastic.
Okay,
Hey,
how do I sound? I'm in a different setup here today.
You sound like you are in a small cave, but not a huge cave, just a small one. So
Is it better to be in a small cave than a huge one?
I think a huge one, your voice is like cavernous and it sounds like everything's echoing. It just sounds a little different is the thing. That's all.
Yeah, well, it's going to sound different because it's a very different microphone. But yeah, and this is a cheap camera. So, but
Hey,
I'm
we're here.
temporarily displaced while we renovate.
You are, you've been uprooted, you've been dislodged, discombobulated, and you're making the best of it. I see Art in the chat says hi. Hey, Art, good to see you.
Hi, Art.
Yeah, there's a whole backstory on your new background.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit too, but we've had, just quite a time with the house. We had to move out for termites.
Yep.
I'm not stepping in termite poop in the morning while getting coffee.
Oh, that is the absolute worst feeling. Absolute worst, because you're like, not only is there something gross on my floor, so like somebody should clean this up. Oh yeah, that somebody is probably me. But also you're like, it's not just like food or like some coffee creamer or anything. It is actual like an insect that's eating your main asset in your life. So it feels very hopeless when you step in termite wood poo.
Termites.
Termites, go away.
If there was a guy with a long beard up there in heaven, I would ask, WTF, termites and mosquitoes. What were you effing thinking?
This is like our theme for summer 2025. We've had more termite commentary on Ish than in the history of Ish.
True.
Honestly.
And you know what our Christian friends would say, it was man's sin that brought mosquitoes and termites into the world, not a loving God. So if you had never eaten, if you had never shared the apple with Adam, Eve, we would not have termites. It's all your fault. Well,
or maybe it would be like this. And I see Dawn in the chat says, good morning, Dawn. Maybe it would be like this. If like human beings didn't sin, there would be mosquitoes, but they wouldn't bite you. There would be termites, but they wouldn't eat your house. They would be polite. They would be your friends. They would be your friends. They will be like, like you invite them to your family picnics and that sort of thing. Yeah. Pucky gets it. That's what I'm saying, Pucky. Yeah. She nailed it.
Yeah. God created mosquitoes and termites, Pucky says here in the live stream, but man's sin made them bother you. Apparently I have sinned more than most because mosquitoes really bother me. Oh yeah, after the flood, that's right.
Well, some people buy these little like traps for mosquitoes and things like that, and they put them outside in their backyard. I just sit next to Paul because Paul is like my human, like, because like wherever you go, I just follow, and then you get all the mosquito bites, and I'm good.
Me and your daughter,
I
we
know.
get eaten up by mosquitoes
really
like
sad.
crazy, and you and our son, they just ignore.
I mean, it's like they're there, but it's like I'll get maybe 2 or 3 bites, and you'll get like 30.
And we and I get them in my office, and they're like, I hear them, but you hear they go by the ear, and the next thing I know, I'm like, oh, damn, and bitten all over. Stephanie's here, and
Stephanie, we've been missing Stephanie.
And River Hugger is here, and River Hugger lost her father, and so hearts out to you. Also, I forgot to mention last week, I was going to mention this. Our good friend Craig, who I used to do another podcast with, he lost his father in the
2
last
weeks ago, I think. Yeah.
And his mom sent me a really nice DM, just letting me know it had happened in case I didn't know, and just said really kind things. So, gosh, our heart is with you all, and that's just such a thing to walk through, that you kind of sometimes we don't really know what emotion we're supposed to feel around mortality of a loved one, and so there can be all the feels. And so I just say to you guys, what you feel is what you feel, and that's not good or bad, or it's just you being human and feeling what a human feels at this moment.
It is. It is nothing quite like it. Losing a loved one, a parent in particular. There's just nothing. Nothing quite like it. So life altering. So.
So where do we go next? I'm serious. I totally have lost. My compartmentalized brain has taken our discussion yesterday and put it somewhere in the ethos.
It's okay. It's okay, because you and I are both sporting the BB curl hair cream today. So we are like sharing the curl hair product and trying it out. I'm going to pretend like we're like getting sponsorship money from Bumble and like that we're going to make a lot of money by saying those words, Bumble and Bumble. I don't even know the brand, but maybe I just named like a porn site. I'm not sure. But yeah, we're both trying out this great new hair cream today.
As long as you feel good about your hair, it's all good. Life is good, right?
That's what I always felt like when I was at the city of Fresno, serving in local elected office. I always felt like my helmet, the hair helmet was like my force field of like
nice Scrubs reference, by the way.
Yeah,
I like it.
Very, very only the intelligent know the helmet reference. Anyway,
it was one of the great
one of the great
of all time.
I feel like last week on Ish, when we just like broke down adolescence, I was like, oh, we could totally be like a Netflix show reviewer, and like Netflix could pay us lots of money to draw spiritual meaning out of their content. I think that actually should be a thing.
All right. Do you want Don is asking in the live stream, what do we think of the new Jesus Christ Superstar production at the Hollywood Bowl? Are you aware of it? It's an outrage for Christians. They're coming freaking unglued about it. And let me add, Christians are also losing their shit for the unbelievably provocative Sydney Sweeney jeans ad. It's hilarious to watch how much the Epstein distraction of look over here has Christians in a tizzy. But our daughter used to live right by Hollywood.
I don't know about this version of it. I mean, I saw the show not long ago. It actually the whatever Broadway musical tour thing came to our town, and Jesus Christ Superstar was one of the shows, and I went to see it. And I got to tell you, I didn't like it. And not for any like Christian thing. I actually just didn't like the show. It felt very dated to me. I think it's like a show whose season was in the past.
Okay.
So that was, like However, I do think the unbelievable highlight of the show is the choreography. You cannot take your eyes off the disciple dancers, the crowd dancers. That is incredible. But the message and the like, oh, we're gonna, we want to be so provocative by like repositioning Jesus in a certain way. I felt like that it just didn't really go anywhere for me. So
Lisa in the chat says that it's a female Jesus.
Oh, that's kind of interesting and cool. Don't hate it.
I love it.
Don't hate it.
I love it.
Don't hate that. Well,
oh my gosh.
I mean,
you can't have a black mermaid, and you can't have a female Jesus.
Okay.
Oh,
is
it's Cynthia Riva.
What?
Oh.
What? Oh my goodness.
Oh, that is hilarious.
That's the lady from Wicked, right?
Right, yeah.
Oh my gosh. How are we not on top of this?
And Adam Lambert plays Judas, and he's gay and Jewish, says Donna. Well, this is great. I'm going to have to see it now.
She's from the whole country of South Africa.
Both
thank
Jesus
you,
Christ
Dawn.
Superstar and then later in life, the Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat were just so evil in my house.
Yeah, that's right. There was a day. Now, this puts a whole new light on things. Like I would definitely be interested to watch this interpretation of Jesus Christ Superstar with what is it? There's like a word in theater. I should know this because I know Sydney, our daughter's been in a couple of shows where this is true, where they do like gender reversal for the parts, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Is it called gender reversal?
No, it's something else. Anyway, but Dawn says there's tons of clips on YouTube. Okay, we will go watch it. And oh, that's so cool.
I knew this was going to happen, by the way. You may know, usually I'm downstairs, Ashley is upstairs for the pod. We're now in rooms next to each other, so we have to have the doors closed.
Right.
And the dog is scratching at my door.
Yeah, poor little thing.
Somewhat.
I could reach my hand like this, and you could reach your hand out, and like we could almost touch. See, that's it. I appreciate Dawn getting us started, getting some blood flowing on this topic because. All
right, I am going to let the dog in.
All right, our probably talking about what hair product we're using today is not exactly the whole like.
Hey, we are bringing our authentic selves here. Come on.
All right, that's fair. We can work with that. There's little pudgeons. Okay, so
hi, buddy.
You were saying that you're feeling like your compartmentalized brain wasn't flowing like we talked through yesterday. What like, kind of the conversation we wanted to have this morning? And
yeah, I know we had a good topic yesterday, and I
did. You know what?
Remember what it was?
We had a fantastic-ish show in our living room yesterday when we were talking about the show, and it was just you, me, and the dog. So now the goal is to reproduce it when we're actually recording this and having a conversation with our good friends.
I need to take notes next time.
Well, here's what I remember that we were talking about. I remember that we were talking about like having hard conversations and reflecting on our own last 4 years / 31 years of the times when we have had hard and productive conversations with one another, how that has fed into our ability to like stay in relationship and fight for relationship space with one another. And we've learned a lot along the way, especially in the last 4 years after your diagnosis and your transformational journey. And so I think we wanted to talk about, two things set this off. One, you're moving out of the home office where so many meaningful things happened. So you might start with that and talk about that a little bit. And then the conversation you had with the TV reporter on Friday, that is the result of many years of hard conversations. So that was the idea.
Yeah. And I gave it a title at about 2:00 in the morning this morning when I was putting it all together. And I mentioned the monster in it. That's been kind of a theme of my content for a week or so here of, if you're going to call me a monster, I'm going to adopt that monster's power and challenge and scare and, do all the things that monsters can do, make people, make a choice. Are we going to hate the monster, or are we going to, try to befriend it, kind of thing? And so that plays into this idea of, how do we have conversation? And, so my idea of monster is being authentically me. If we're authentically us and people say that's not good, bless you. Ashley did a good job of muting her mic before sneezing. That is a pro right there.
I think you heard it through your microphone. Because we're next to each other. I heard it in my ear.
Yeah. But yeah, being that person who's willing to challenge people with your authenticity, is that okay? And then, when they want to come and come back at you and be condescending, or, like I get a lot, people are like, you're clearly mentally deranged, you clearly need therapy. And I'm like, yeah, I go to my therapist every Thursday. How about you? What are you doing? And so that concept of monster bringing along uncomfortable conversations with it. And how do we have that without just being like, keep it real, man. I'm going to keep it real, and I'm going to vomit everything I think about you on the table right now without any thought of repercussion of that.
And you just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
I think there is, I think it's like, there's a lot of sort of parsing of this conversation, so we'll start with your embrace of, okay, you think I'm monstrous. Let me just receive that. I feel like, as I've watched you kind of walk through that internal dialogue, and even it's been inspirational for me. Like, it really is more about, it's not a like chest bump, like, that's right, I'm going to be a monster to you. It's more a like, oh, I'm just going to be okay with the fact that you think I'm terrible. That's okay. I don't need you to think differently. I'm going to just be okay with me.
Yeah.
Don't you think that's kind of what that whole line of thinking is about?
And we can parse into this more. I think there have been times, like, say, friends of ours who are people of color have had to say, no, you don't get to walk away from this conversation. You have to hear these hard things. And I think there is a place for that. I definitely think we saw Jesus doing that at times in the Bible. But I think you use the term a lot of like, what's your agenda? And I think that is a really great way to look at it. I give the caveat to that of like, somebody who is a product of childhood trauma, who has never been allowed to be angry or feel their emotions, but have just had to blame themselves and live in personal shame. There is a time to say, I'm going to give you some latitude to be a little pissy,
Yeah.
And somebody who is strong in their identity and healthy can do that and say,
yeah,
without being patronizing, like, yeah, you deserve to be angry here. But then how do we grow from that and use that ability to feel emotion to let it bring a range of emotions other than just anger?
So dwelling on this notion of like understanding the agenda that a person has, or like, I'll make it personal, that I may feel, by the way, my therapist, like, and my past and my current therapist, like, have been so instrumental in helping me understand where I'm coming from and what's going on in my inner world, and just like doing that U-turn and being like, hey, I'm just going to shut out what I perceive as triggers and like all of these people out there that are the problems, and instead be like, none of that matters. I'm going inside first. And the reality is all these little agendas that are always being carried by different aspects of who we are, different parts, whatever. And anyway, so when you say like, sometimes, I get to be pissy, I get to be angry. What's so helpful is when you can say, like, when you're honest about that. It's like, if you can say, hey, I need this space where I get to be this way, then whoever you're talking to, it's like, oh yeah, I get it. In other words, agenda, we're always going to have agendas. Can we be honest? Pardon me. Can we be honest in that moment? Can we be in touch with, why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel the need to say this? Hey, as my trusted partner who can help hold space for me, words that I never thought I would say. And yet now I always say words like hold space for someone. You know what? It's like you're holding hands and you're like, yeah, I got you. Be honest about that. If you just come out swinging and, somebody gets clocked and you're like, what the fuck is that about? And they're like, oh, well, I just get to be angry. Well, hold on. You know what I'm saying? It's like kind of setting up a way in which it's safe for you and others to be angry. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And then sometimes some of us struggle with that because, the trauma is pretty fierce. And where I struggle with that is when people invalidate my story. There's that, oh, Paul has DID. That's why he says what he does about Christianity. Oh, Paul's non-normative gender, and that's why. Those are the things where I feel like I need. How would I say this? And maybe I'm just being honest about it. I need a moment of somebody saying, "Oh, okay, I recognize that. Can you help me do that better?" But when they come back and try to justify what they said, then I start going, "Hey, fuck you, man!
1,000%.
You don't get to define my story." And,
no, I get that.
There's a power play in that. I'm better than you because I'm feeling sad for your injury that makes you be less than human.
It is absolutely someone else's coping mechanism.
Yeah, that's it. They want me to make them comfortable for the thing they said. They want me to, I'm sorry. Now, if somebody says out of compassion, oh man, I didn't realize that wasn't my heart. That wasn't my intent. Please, I can go ruminate on this myself and work on it, or could you give me some insight into how that felt and how I can do that better? That's a totally different thing. We all bump into each other. But when we start to justify ourselves, well, I'm sorry, but I was just trying to tell you how much I care about you and understand how much pain you're in. I'm like, okay, that's sorry, not sorry, right there.
All this it's just really hard work. I'm wondering if you might have the Ricky Bobby clip handy.
You need a respite from the heaviness.
I feel like it's a nice place to have a little levity here.
All right, so we're the little bit of setup is, I don't know if everybody's seen Talladega Nights, the Ricky Bobby movie.
The fact that people may not have is a generational gap, and it makes me sad. What is society coming to if you've not seen Talladega Nights?
And it's this idea of I get to say whatever I want, and you have to deal with it. So here we go. I'm going to try to figure out how to do this without feedback. So we'll find out. All right.
Sound removed for copyright protection.
Yep. It's in the Geneva Convention.
With all due respect.
If I say no offense, but I then get to say anything I want to say, and you just have to take it.
Yeah.
The new Substack is here. You heard it. Unconventional Pastor Paul has a new Substack page, and you don't want to miss it.
It's where I'm sharing daily, deep thoughts, prayers, and insightful content, where the manhood of God is being stolen.
where Charlie Kirk could finally learn what a woman is.
And a monster at the door can be monstrously beautiful and powerful.
If that's not enough, you can read my political blog on the Collective website, where we believe in the power of independent media to challenge oppression and fight fascism.
Sacred Rebellion and the Collective, live inspired as we journey into this 21st century spirituality together.
It's like saying bless your heart at the end, at the beginning or end of any statement that in which you shit talk somebody if you're from the South, which I do quite frequently.
Don't we all universally know bless your heart is not?
We do now. We do now.
Yeah. Bless your heart is the Christian version of go F yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as we were hashing through things yesterday, and that we're both going like, oh, it's like Talladega Nights, no offense. I said no offense. You can't be offended. And it made me think about, when you do need to have hard conversations with loved ones, people you are trying to be in relationship with, it takes a lot of work to get to the point where you're ready to propose that conversation, to have it. And you never know if the other person is open to, or where they're going to land with it. It can be, think of all the like quote hard conversations we would slam into in the name of Jesus when we were trying to like lead Bible studies and lead people and all this kind of, and it just can get real messy real quickly. So it's not something to take lightly. And, it kind of comes back to, you got to have your own stuff together and be processed through your shit before that's going to be productive.
How much do you think cultural and social attunement come into play, where, as an example, one of the things I've learned in my master's therapy program is eye contact as a definer of I care about what you're saying is a Western culture concept. Like, not all cultures in the world value eye contact, and particularly, again, with people with a trauma background, eye contact can feel very unsafe. And so I love my therapist because she's like, you can look at me, you can look out the window, just listen and let's talk. And if you need to stop talking, so there may be at times where we're like, oh, you're being offensive because we see everything from a white Western culture, where in fact, in the culture of the person we're dealing with, this is how they express themselves amongst loved ones. Like, it's like Jerry Maguire, you have the black football player and his family, they scream at each other and kick each other and, all kinds of things. And then, but are the most loving, caring family in the world. And then here's Jerry Maguire, very, straight-laced and tie and never says anything that makes anybody uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it turns out that family is the healthy ones, and Jerry is the one with the emotional issues.
Right. How much does culture, I guess, obviously if you're talking cross culture, for sure, that's an important thing to be taking into consideration. I think, like, I'm right now thinking about the hardest relationships that I have worked to stay in, fight for. And honestly, that's probably you, right? Like, maybe to some extent our kids, right? Like, because we just have
make
hard
your
things
life a
with kids.
living hell. I know.
No, not that. I'm not saying that. It's just like, you are my most intimate life partner. And, there's nothing I wouldn't do to fight to get to the point where, we're flowing in honest and affirming relationship with each other. Like, there's nothing I wouldn't do. So, In that respect, I'm not worried too much about whether or not we have cultural barriers. Now, in the workplace, where I work with people from even you know, same ethnicity, there can be major major cultural barriers that you just have to like sift through and consider like, okay, but honestly, in both cases, it's like, you know, you're just going to hear hard stuff. And the challenge is like, what is the level of offense that you're willing to like work through and walk through and keep going to get, you know, to get to the point where it's like, okay, all that stuff has been resolved. It's not keeping us from continuing to fight for relationship, you know, and like that kind of work is like, you know, somebody was telling me about yesterday about, some birds got up underneath their solar panels on their house, and they were up there for a long time. And when they finally took the solar panels off, because I guess they were selling the house, there was like, I don't know, like oceans and oceans of bird poo. It's, you know, it's just hard to imagine. But anyway, like this layer, this thick of bird poo across the whole roof, you know, that's like how much are you willing to walk through and work through to get, you have to believe the other person is coming at you in the same way and you're trying to get there, you know?
Let me make sure I'm understanding your analogy of bird poop here. It's like you got to make sure you're cleaning out what's under the surface on a regular basis so it doesn't pile up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the offense. It is a person saying to you some of the hardest things you will ever hear, you know, that's you're just like, when you're just like, I don't think that's me at all. And yet this is how this person is experiencing me.
Yeah.
Am I going to get mad? And am I going to let the offense of that cause me to be like, that's it, I'm out of here, you know, protect, attack.
And that's oh, sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Or am I going to be like, that really hurts that this person is saying this to me. Let me go consider that deep hurt, what is coming up for me. And, you know, like, let me not just reject everything that's coming out of your mouth because I find it offensive.
And so what I was going to say when I rudely interrupted was that in a professional environment, you're kind of going to have to figure that out. I do want to say in interpersonal relationships, so a really important thing in these conversations is what's your goal, you know, or what's your agenda, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people that we just can't have relationship with, and we're not demanding, hey, go build a bridge with that person. You know, there are times when you just say, I don't have a goal to do the work to try to fix this. I don't think this person is ever going to be safe for me or any of those things. You can step up and walk away. But I think so asking questions is always valuable in this when we're in pain. And so instead of like, hey, you just said something that's offensive to me, and the other person says, well, I said no offense, so you just have to take, you know, you can come back with like, ow, that kind of hurt, that statement, but you're important to me, or whatever the language might be. Can you help me understand what you're trying to say with that? In a way I can parse it through a little better. Or like you say, I'm willing to go away and think about it and work on it, and let's come back in next Wednesday and talk about it again. So those are really fair ways to handle hard conversations as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really helpful.
So some of this, by the way, I'm not sure where you're going, but it came out of videos I did about moving my office and the emotion that brought up. And then I did a TV interview this week, and that was an interesting experience. So I know we wanted to have those up in the conversation.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about, because you posted a video this week that you were getting quite a lot of reaction and traction with about moving out, and that, let's talk about that. And then let's talk about the TV interview that you did on Friday. So just a little bit of the backstory, since we are talking about termites and things like that every week, apparently on Ish in the summer of 2025. So part of our summer like fix up is we're replacing some flooring in 2 rooms in the house. And one of them is this front room where Paul has had their office since you moved out of the church. So you were pastoring until fall of 2018.
Yeah.
And then we announced that we were going to step aside and let the next generation of leadership in the church take over. And you did about 6 months of kind of transition at the church. And then in the spring of 2019, you left your office at the church and you moved into this front room that we turned into this office for you. It had these like cherry wood built-in counters around the room. And anyway,
which we thought was such a cool idea
when we put them in. I was trying to think, because when I see the empty room now, because we had those removed, I feel like this feels like what it was like when we moved into this house in 2004. And I can't remember what was in there before we put the built-ins in. But anyway, a lot has happened for you in your life from 2019 until 2025. And as we're just like, oh, hurry up, get the stuff out so we can get the painting done. Like I'm in logistics mode, blah, blah, blah. And then it hit you this week, kind of like a ton of bricks. So like, oh shit, this stuff, like a lot has happened in this space.
Yeah. I was totally, it caught me totally off guard. I didn't think anything about it. And then I had hadn't put stuff away yet, but I had kind of broken it down and we had taken the chairs out. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is a life passage moment. And it just started coming back to me like I'm leaving this space and I'll be going back into that space, but it will be a different space. There will be a different feng shui. There will be a different, everything in there. And I am a completely different person than the one that walked into that office for the first time and started talking on social media. And gosh, it really did hit me of like, wow, we're so involved in the day to day that sometimes we aren't able to see like how far we've come down the road. And I was just looking back going, whoa, I'm a long way from what anchored me for a long time in my life.
Can you even, when you think back to that person who, your first social media video was Pastor Paul with a plant, why I'm not voting for Donald Trump. And that went viral before they hacked the algorithms and like started to clamp down on those kinds of conversations. But can you even, like, when you think about that person and who you are now, are you like, that is someone I don't even recognize? Or do you feel like there is some through line to who you are today?
Well, that's a big question, because we definitely have a part in our DID system that, I'm sorry, I just got distracted with River Hugger saying, I like you today better than the guy I met on Two Guys Talking Fresno podcast. All right, cool. There is a part in my DID system that carries the name Paul that has always felt like he is who we are. He is the essence of this person. And now we're finding out that was a masking agent we had to put up to survive in the crazy right-wing heteronormative Christian world. But Paul doesn't go away, although the rest of the parts wanted to vote him off the island for sure. But so in a lot of ways, that person is still here. And we're still having to learn, like, that's maybe not our default person. So it's hard for maybe people to understand that, or maybe it's not. Maybe you all feel your parts more than we may think. So yeah, there is a through line to that person. That person hasn't gone away, and that person wasn't another person. It was just a portion of who we are was outsized and being the definition of who we are. And it was a very painful and very safe place, and letting go of that is really hard. And I think maybe that was some of it, of like, oh, wow, now I'm really letting something go. This is really like not just a breakdown of my office, but a breakdown of a connection to something past.
And when you think about Paul the Part, like there's the way I'm understanding Part's work is, Dick Schwartz, all parts are welcome. Every part, every aspect of us, carry burdens. So when you think of Paul the Part, the burden that he feels, which is kind of what you lived out of for so many years, like fighting that burden or the heaviness of that burden. When you think about an unburdened version of that part, and it is, how does he feel? Like, what does that feel like when Paul the Part realizes that he doesn't have to mask, he doesn't have to, always be the more alpha male in the room or have more sports jokes than anybody else? Like, is there some relief that part can feel and be kind of like on team system? Now we're just having a therapy session.
I almost have to go inside and ask. That is the existential question of my life right now. And so, and maybe a little bit of education is, my pronouns are they, them, because we are a multiple. And inside of that multiple, there are parts that are he and there are parts that are she. And so it's an interesting dichotomy, but it's quite literally like any other sort of human relationship. Paul feels like, wait a second, I was out front taking the arrows for you all, and yeah, it meant I had to knock you down sometimes so that you didn't cause me to get more arrows, but hey, that's what I had to do to help us survive, and we're still alive, and so thank me, you're welcome. And then the other parts are like, well, that was no fun when you shoved us down and shoved us in the drawer.
Yeah, there was harm, there was injury that happened in that.
Right. So it's really like those hard conversations that we're talking about. My parts are having those conversations of like, can we understand each other with compassion when we feel so deeply hurt by each other?
Yeah.
And ultimately, still we're fighting, like, can Paul stop thinking he's the default? Can he step back and say, I'm not the whole definition of us, and I don't have to be for us to be safe anymore. We can be safe in our true wholeness. So it's such a hard question. And letting go of that is like, that's the fear of death. There truly is a trauma that feels like I'm going to die if I don't cling to this thing, and that's the battle.
Mm-hmm.
That's the therapy journey right there.
And so I have to imagine that as you moved out of your office and we started to clean it out this last week, those were the things that were coming up for you.
Yeah.
And you recorded a video of kind of reflections on that journey, and and now here we are. Maybe
there's a part of that where, there are parts for me, the Paul part and some of the younger parts that get activated by Paul's feelings, that like, okay, you're letting go of this knickknack you've held on to forever, and you're just throwing it away. Like, am I next? Am I going to be thrown away? am I disposable? And so I had to sit for a while in the office, have that conversation internally of, no, this isn't a throwing away. This is a realizing, like, we're on a trapeze and we can't hold on to both of them. We're going to have to let go of the one to have the forward momentum to get to the other side. And yeah, that's what we've been working on. You're reading comments, I can tell.
Well, I'm also just letting that sink in. But yeah, I'm definitely reading comments and appreciating folks interacting with each other and what we're talking about here. Laura talks about ADHD, ASD, late diagnosis, having a lot of similarities to DID. I feel as though I'm gathering all the pieces of the real me. So thoughtful. Stephanie Christine, taking the blows to protect Stephanie, often say they're enjoying a well-earned rest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a real key for internal work, is to be able to say, and for me, like, work on getting the parts to say together, I hate what you did, but I know why you did it.
Yeah.
I don't have to say thanks for the abuse internally, but I can say, I have compassion for why you did it. And now can you have compassion for who I am? The other part can say, and both parts then have to say, okay, I understand, and I'm willing for us to walk together as a team going forward so we can function better.
You've talked about how, as you've had a few glimpses in therapy, or maybe, in quiet time or whatever, where you feel body calm come over you, and how it's the first time in your almost 60 years of life where you could just feel like you weren't on alert. And when I think of that, and I think what it would feel like to always be terrified that you literally could physically die at any moment. And it's an irrational thing. It's a trauma response. But thinking about, like, you're starting to experience that, it's just a real relief. And I think to myself, like, yeah, it's worth it. What you're going through, what we're having to go through to get to that place. Worth it.
Yeah. Thank you for those tears. I'm feeling a little vulnerable in all of it, but not in a bad way. We did EMDR in therapy. If anybody knows what EMDR, it's eye movement, something. I can never remember what they all stand for.
Yeah, it's the thing where they try to rewire your brain by doing
a therapist can do it with the finger, or having you look from the two corners of the room. Or I've been in one where we had these little clappers that I held in my hand, and they would buzz, boop, 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 boop. And so the therapist was having me focus on, like, what's a comforting word at this moment when working into EMDR, and it was, I don't even remember what it was. And she was like, okay, let's really lean into that. What does that mean? And then when we got to that place, it's like, okay, what word is coming up now? And all of a sudden, I was like, wait, I'm not on point. I'm not protecting myself. I feel totally free to just be in this moment. And it was literally absolutely the first time in my life that I had ever felt that way. And that moment, that is the North Star in a lot of ways. Like, and because my therapist is like, oh, do you know that you get to feel that way? And there are a lot of humans that feel that way on a regular basis. They, because when I was a child, I had to, like, be watching dad and mom to a certain degree, and brothers to a certain degree. Like, are they okay? Are they okay? Because as long as they're okay, I'm okay. And the second they're not okay, I'm not okay. And we learn, I think Laura had mentioned people pleasing, or somebody had, we learn to be, and when I was in Christianity, there was always this fear of man, fear God, not man. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
now I know. Easy.
It was a
for you
put
to-
down.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
it was a real condemnation, like that people would weaponize this, like what they didn't know, obviously they didn't know, but it was a very common quip in our stream of Christendom, that if you were like taking in the input, like, somebody's not okay, I'm kind of freaking out about it. Well, you're fearing man and not God.
Yeah.
And it was a real, just, I don't know, chisel, in the heart of that part that is trying to help you survive. It's very, very cruel. I don't think people understood that or realized it, but it is experienced as being very cruel.
And my father, who was a pastor, so as a child, not only, is my parent defining all of my life, as with any child, but this was the representative of God, who would talk often from the pulpit. God told me this and God told me that. And so there was a little extra bit of trauma with that, I think. And he would say to me and my brothers, as long as you're following the Lord, I'll support you and I'll have you in my house and da-da-da. And the message to my little spirit was, well, I feel like there's something wrong with me. So I am in grave danger of being put out on the street and I have to fight. And so you live life as that dog that's like gets stiff and stops and is, like waiting. Is there danger out there? Is there danger out there? Is it, and I live my whole life in that posture.
Right.
And and I'm still fighting it. I'm still fighting it.
Well, and that current, it gets pressed down, and but it is always the dull noise running in the back of your, it's your subconscious. You're not thinking about it. And like, we're at our daughter's play and, we're enjoying her, you're not sitting there going like, I hope I'm okay right now. It's way down deep. And then of course that gets triggered and it flares. And anyway,
and that triggering is not weakness. That is a trauma response.
Right.
We have some responsibility to do our work with it going forward, but
right.
You cannot say I'm a terrible person because I have that trauma response.
That's right. That's right. Now, I will just note here for the Ish record that your EMDR experience of having that glimpse of like, I'm okay and my neural pathways are calm and all the science words that I'm not qualified to talk about, but do you know, I have had that experience on so many occasions in a Christian worship, in a Christian religious practice setting. The way I can find body calm and peace and, whatever you want to call it, true self, divine love, Holy Spirit, like my soul, I experienced that in a religious Christian setting. I'm bringing that up because
you're saying you felt the body calmness.
Yes.
Like in a worship service. Okay.
Through Christian practice. And I bring it up to say, it is always a little bit of a struggle for me to hear you say, like, the whole thing, baby, bathwater, it's all terrible. Like, I get why you do. And of course, but I think the institution that you're pointing to is not the reflection of the true spirit, that Christ carried, that, let's call it a universal kind of thing, because it's there, even in the middle of those religious institutions and practices and all the junk and all the misogyny and all the political rhetoric and all the bullshit, there was breakthrough and spirit connection for me. So it is a little bit of the tension that I feel when you take it to task, because I know there are individual people who, like God, God, spirit, life is going to find you, and it's going to find you, and it is there. So anyway,
well, I feel like I live in the tension of that. In the middle of my most traumatic days as a child, there was Christmas Day, and it was pure joy.
Yeah.
Pure joy, right up until I accidentally marked on the couch with the magic marker that I got for Christmas that my dad didn't want to give me in the first place.
Yeah, that's bad. That's a bad end to Christmas joy.
Yeah. And, same with like Christian worship. I loved Christian worship time, as they call it, where they play the music. But there were times where that was, am I doing it good enough? Are people watching me? Or, there were days I didn't feel like doing it. And I'm like, oh, if I don't like raise my hands and jump around, people are going to think, what's wrong with Paul
The
today?
performative. Sure. Yeah.
So I think I think the net is a negative at this
in its
point.
current, in its current cultural form.
The fig tree that Jesus pointed to and said, if it doesn't bear fruit, you rip it out by the roots and throw it in the fire. Because every child is going to adapt to trauma. Oh, I had to watch this show of Hoarders for my school. And this house is piled with crap.
Nothing makes me more anxious.
And these two little boys lived in that house, and they were just climbing over the piles of shit, having so much fun and laughing, totally unaware that this was an unreal world, that this wasn't how everybody else lived. And so I think we can find joy and say, that was real joy. I would say there are things I learned in my journey of Christianity that were life-changing, that I'm still building on today.
Yeah, life-forming.
But I would never encourage people to go that route to get it again, because the price that was paid to get there was too much.
Yeah. Well, and I think people who you do battle with on social media that I don't really pay attention to too much, but what I imagine is going on, they're like, we hate you and you're a G-man, blah, blah. It's like, it is easy. You put a lot of bait out there for people who, just the kind of like offend the mind to reveal the heart type of concept. You put it all out there. If people are, willing to process it through. I mean, I think there's a lot, probably, I'm guessing a pretty good percentage of the people that are throwing bombs on social media, if they sat and talked, if you guys sat and talked, there would be a reconciliation and a diffusing of the situation, because you're not all that misaligned with people who are having authentic God connections, anyway, and I don't even want to judge somebody else's God connection. I hate the even thought of that. I think it's so ridiculous to try to presuppose. And I know you aim at the institutions and the leadership kind of stuff, but anyway, I want to come back to this.
Let me just say in that there is the concept of Jesus having a group of followers, and he says to them, you have to eat my flesh and drink my blood. You think you follow these rules and you're going to go to heaven. No, you've got to eat my flesh and drink my blood. He literally says you have to be a cannibal to go to heaven. And he doesn't give any context to it at all. And a shitload of those people get up and leave. And he doesn't say, no, wait, stop. Let me contextualize this for you.
I don't really mean eat my bones.
Those that were willing. And I always, read that story as his 12 guys were there, and they're like, holy shit, if I had anywhere to go right now, I'd be gone. But I've given to follow you. And then he gives context. So there is a concept of I'm going to say something offensive, and you have a choice to say, well, that's not all Christians, or oh, wow, that pinched. Is there something for me to see here? And then when somebody says, tell me more. I'm willing to walk through the pain of that. Then we can really have a conversation. But if you're just in it for me saying comforting things, I'm going to say something bad about the church, but this is not about all Christians. This is not about all of you. I give every Christian then the right to say, oh, I'm in the not crowd. So you just throw it out there and let people walk through it.
So this all kind of comes back to whether we're talking about the inner world and the reconciliation that we as individuals are the only people. Like, I'm the only person who can facilitate and listen to and understand the different parts of me that are having conflict and that are carrying agendas, that are hurting. I'm the only person who does. But that's inner reconciliation that is necessary for there to be external reconciliation with another person.
Yeah.
And in both, whether you're talking about inner or outer, I think there is nothing more beautiful. It, to me, is the very life flowing from person to person when you can do that hard work and get to reconciliation. I think there's nothing more magical on planet Earth. And that I love the moments where that's possible and happens.
I've had moments when people who used to go to our church have sent me DMs and said, hey, I've just hated what you've been saying for a long time, but now I get it. And I realized, like, I was the one who was off a little bit, or, whatever. I'm not asking people to like come and say I'm right and you're wrong, but they were like, okay, now I'm hearing. And there really is not much better than that. But I actually love more. It's kind of, I think it's like the Jesus Thomas story, like, great, you believe now that you've seen, but boy, I really love these people who believed in me without me having to prove myself, which is a very human response. When the outcast, and I don't mean to call anybody outcast, but just using that as a spiritual term, DMs me and says, I think somebody said in the chat here live too, like, you've made my path easier. You've let me know I'm not alone, that I'm not unique, that I'm not the only one in this process. That feeds my soul. For sure. Okay, we're at finish time. Do you have anything else? Do I have one more thing I want to do before we go?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I didn't make a great headline for our show today, but I did make a headline that I'm proud of for my blog on the Collective website this week. And I want to show it to you as our maybe exit what's on my mind thing today. And let's see, where is it? Oh no, I can't find it. Okay, here we go. When a Christian elected official is caught coveting ass.
Oh, no.
And I found a poem I had written a couple of years ago, or a little parable of a kid coming home from school and saying, Dad, what does it mean to covet your neighbor's ass? And his dad is like, what are they teaching you at that school? And he's like, oh, they put this new set of 10 rules on the wall that they call mandments. And it says something about do not covet your neighbor's ass. And then the joke here really is that the state superintendent of schools in Oklahoma, who is pushing for the 10 commandments to be in all classrooms in Oklahoma and the Trump Bible to be in every classroom being taught from, literally in each class, this week had some pornography pop up on his TV screen, on his monitor in a board meeting. And it turns out the guy that would tell the rest of us not to covet our neighbor's ass has been coveting some ass, perhaps. Of course, he's now saying it's all.
Yeah, it wasn't his computer, right?
Yeah,
oh
he
gosh.
was coveting ass.
Well, okay, so I did not watch Saturday Night Live last night, but wouldn't that have been the perfect? I mean, it's like they could just reenact the board meeting, and that would be the most perfect Saturday Night Live skit of all time.
Well, it would.
But
it would. The other very funny story going on is the wife of Emmanuel Macron, the French prime minister, I think, is suing Candace Owens. Candace Owens, the right-wing influencer, because Candace Owens has been on this kick for like 2 years that Macron is married not only to a man, that his wife is a man, but like she's his brother. And so Candace Owens has been saying this, like, just, you know, she's been building her platform on her own on anti-Semitism, and Macron's wife is a man. Yeah, they used to say that about Michelle Obama too. Yeah. And so they sent her a cease and desist letter, and she kept going, and she made fun of the letter. And so now they're suing her for billions of dollars. And she's like, bring it on, you know, we'll make you prove you're a woman, you know, and all this stuff. But there's the guys on Pod Save America were just roaring with laughter about this.
Oh my God.
Even though it's a horrible, horrible thing. And there is the point of this anti-trans stuff this is what it comes to, is telling females, pull up the skirt there, honey, prove to me you're female. You know,
Jesus.
Drop the drawers.
Christ.
Let's prove it.
And
that harms all women. All women.
Can we take it back to a tender place as we wrap up today? Because now I'm just like overwhelmed with outrage and disgust and a sense of injustice. So let's take it back. And that is this. Here is the backdrop of society. Here is the norm of leaders or whatever. In the middle of that, and with that as the backdrop, when individual people can make room for hard conversations and reconciliation, and when we can do that for ourselves in our own inner world, just think of the contrast. Think of how beautiful that is, and how that sets up each person who, you know, to me, it's just like a garden hose that gets unkinked and now the water is flowing. Just imagine that happening, person after person after person after person, and multiplying and shifting consciousness of our culture. Because even though that stuff's going on, like, it doesn't mean that I can't find that divine moment with another person, you know?
Yeah.
It almost makes it more beautiful. And I think having a value for that and being able to quickly assess and being like, I'm not, like, that's not what I'm holding up as like my prize, is like, I won the Twitter battle. It's the prize is over here.
Yep.
And that is available, right? We get to go forward and have a week where like we can find those gold nuggets of connection and relationship with each other.
Yeah. All right. Well, we did it again.
There we go. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us live. How's the BB?
It's not as curly as I had hoped, and maybe I didn't do it right.
Maybe we didn't scrunch it enough.
I should have scrunched it more, maybe, but it sure feels soft. I do like, how it feels.
Well, we'll look forward to a contract in our inboxes from BB Hair Product for our free promotional.
Or anybody else that has hair products that you want us to try and will pay us to try them. We're all in. We're all in.
Exactly. All right, you guys.
All right. Have a great week, everybody. We love you all. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. I agree.